Howdy, and welcome to this episode of From the Archives. Yesterday was April 12th, which happens to be one of the most important days in March of Dimes history for two reasons. One somber, the other celebratory. "1944 was a challenging year for FDR. He defeated Thomas Dewey in the presidential election, which would mark the start of his fourth term in the Oval Office. He had recently returned home from the Yalta Conference, a trip that put considerable strain on FDR's health. April 12, 1945. While sitting for a portrait, President Franklin D. Roosevelt complained of a terrible headache. Soon after, he became unconscious, and at 3:35 p.m., FDR died of a cerebral hemorrhage. He was only 63 years old.
On the afternoon of April 12, 1945, the lowering of the White House flag confirmed the passing of America's 31st president. And from Warm Springs, Georgia, the mortal remains of Franklin Delano Roosevelt began the long trip home. Slowly, the long black funeral train rolled up from the south. Then down Pennsylvania Avenue to the beat of muffled drums, the president was borne for the last time to the executive mansion that for 12 years had been his official home. The passing of FDR from the American scene came as a personal shock to the nation. People wept openly, unashamed of their grief. Drawn by 6 white horses, the flag-draped caisson was brought to the main entrance of the White House. Carried into the great East Room, where 80 years before, almost to the day, the body of Abraham Lincoln also had laid in state. At Hyde Park, his ancestral home in Dutchess County, New York, the guns of West Point cadets rang down the final curtain on the man of destiny known round the world as FDR.
10 years later, on April 12th, the nation turned its eyes to the Rackham Lecture Hall at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. It was in this lecture hall that the results of the 1954 field trial were about to be unveiled to the nation.
University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, one of the most glorious chapters in medical history is written as hundreds of scientists throng the School of Graduate Studies to hear the results of the mass anti-polio inoculations conducted last year. Man of the hour is Dr. Jonas Salk, left, developer of the vaccine, and Basil O'Connor, Polio Foundation head. For Dr. Salk, it is the culmination of 8 years of painstaking and often discouraging research. Research that will link his name with Pasteur and Jenner.
Dr. Thomas Francis Jr., director of the Poliomyelitis Vaccine Evaluation Center, stood at the podium and uttered these famous words.
If the results from the observed study areas are employed, the vaccine could be considered to have been 60 to 80% effective against paralytic poliomyelitis.
The public reaction to the announcement was universal jubilation, widespread acclaim for Dr. Jonas Salk, and relief from the fear of polio. News reporters in Ann Arbor raced to get the story out, causing an uproar at Rackham Auditorium. In an excerpt from the book Patenting the Sun, Polio and the Salk Vaccine, author Jane Smith wrote, "All over the country, people turned to their radios at 10 o'clock to hear the full details. In Europe, they tuned to the Voice of America broadcast. Judges suspended trials so that everyone in the courtroom could hear. Department stores set up radio loudspeakers so shoppers could follow the news. Flushed by the first report that the vaccine worked, exuberant citizens rushed to ring church bells and fire sirens, shouted, clapped, sang, and made every kind of joyous noise they could. City councils and state legislatures postponed their regular business to draft resolutions congratulating Dr. Salk for his wonderful achievement." Anticipating the success of the Salk vaccine field trial, NFIP President Basil O'Connor had arranged a $9 million guaranteed purchase of the vaccine for immediate use when it was licensed. March of Dimes purchased vaccine was offered to children who participated in the 1954 field trial, but who had received the placebo, not the actual vaccine, and children in all communities in first and second grades as of spring 1955. Approximately 5 million children received the first 3 shots between April 16th and April 27th. Interestingly enough, the decision to hold a press conference on April 12th had nothing to do with honoring FDR. The date was chosen because it fit both the NFIP and University of Michigan schedules the best. The fact that it coincided with the 10th anniversary of FDR's passing was icing on the cake. Thanks for watching this episode of From the Archives. Is there something you want to learn more about? Is there a part of March of Dimes history you'd like to dive a little deeper in? Leave a comment below and I'll start digging through the archives. Until next time, thanks for watching.